Hey everyone, Sean Dawson here from Julie Harris Realty with your first update for 2024. The month is February. Happy New Year. We're all back on deck now. We'll jump straight into Corelogic indices as recently released in the last couple of days. Talking about Brisbane, of course, and how it compares to a lot of the other capital cities as well. I'll touch on that a little bit. But the all dwellings category, so this is all freehold units, apartments, townhouses, strata, everything that's a residential sale that's occurred. Corelogic has collated this data. So for the all dwellings category, the change year on year, so that means the change between January 2024 and January 2023, those 12 months, that category is up 14.8%, which is a higher statistic than just about every other capital in Australia except for Perth, and the month-on-month change up 1%. The houses category, so freehold homes, up year on year 15% and up month on month 1%. And then the units category, so townhouses, apartments, everything strata, up 13.7% and up month on month 1.2%. Now, essentially, we've regained all of those losses that were incurred during the peak of all of the pandemonium involving the interest rate increases. And so essentially now Brisbane is back on parity with that point there in early 2022. How it compares to a couple of other capitals, Melbourne is probably the most interesting one to talk about. Melbourne is actually in decline at this point for all categories on a month-on-month basis. So all dwellings are down 0.1% month-on-month, and they're only up 4% year-on-year as opposed to our 14.8% here in Brisbane. The houses category is actually parity month-on-month, 0%. And the units category is down 0.3%. So Sydney is still faring quite strong, and Sydney normally leads the way in relation to what happens for the rest of the country. So it's yet to be seen what happens here, but we don't expect any significant decreases this year. If anything, the rate of growth will slow down, which it seems to be doing, but we'll hopefully see some increases throughout the rest of the year. Of course, sentiment relates a lot to how property grows and declines over time, and sentiment now through the rest of the year should start to strengthen up, and if not get much better from buyers, just because of the fact that it does look like now that interest rate rises have come to a halt, as obviously referenced in the last couple of days. First Tuesday of this month in February, the RBA announced to keep the rates at their standard cash rate of 4.35%, citing actually a better than forecast slow in inflation for the December quarter. So when they were forecasting 4.3% inflation for that quarter, what actually occurred was 4.1%, so better than they were forecasting. A lot of economists now are predicting that we will start to see potentially the first rates decrease in the third quarter of this calendar year, so perhaps around September, October, and perhaps one more before the end of the year as well. We'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. But with that kind of circulating in the press and the media, it does seem to be at least making nervous buyers a bit more relaxed about making offers for properties, as we've seen. I'll talk quickly about a couple of sales that we've already performed this year since being back from holiday. So I've only been back for barely a month at this point. We've already put 3 properties under contract. So first week back, Jules and I launched 4 Troy Close in Eden's Landing. Now, this is a very typical kind of previous spec home, previous tenanted home in that suburb. 3-bedroom, a single 2-way bathroom, single car garage on quite a big piece of land, over 700 squares. Home was in a reasonable condition. Certainly potential for it to be cleaned up and made a lot nicer. We had quite a few inspections in that property in the first week, and we had a lot of inquiry on the property. It settled actually today for $615,000. The next one, 10 Rajang Street, in Tanamera. Now this is a property that I have just had confirmation went unconditional today. I launched it about two and a half weeks ago. The amount of interest that I've had in this property has been absolutely mind-bending, and it's easily the busiest campaign I've had in nearly 2 years. It's a really well-kept, well-presented 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home on a 600 square lot, typical house for the Tanamera kind of flat area, not on the hill. A couple of nice features here and there, solar, newish roof, generally well-kept by a loving family. We had, in the first week, we had 13 offers for the property. We've had 152 inquiries for the campaign since launch, and we had 58 people inspect the home in the first 2 weeks. Comparable sales seem to range anywhere from 650 up to about 685, 695, depending on a few features. The final contract price for that property is 720,000. We received a cluster of offers over 700,000. The reason I bring this up is I think Tanamera is one of those suburbs that is a little bit less known than perhaps some of the surrounding suburbs like Cornubia and Daisy Hill. One of those last suburbs before you cross the river into, cross Logan River south into like Eden's Landing and Beenleigh and then south onto the Gold Coast. So I do believe that Tanamera is one of those suburbs where people still want to feel like they live in the greater Brisbane area with great access into Brisbane via the M1. And obviously a lot of great amenities around Tanamera as well, close to Logan Hospital, the Hyperdome Shopping Centre, lots of cafes and all that kind of stuff. I believe that that is why this campaign has been so busy. Regardless, we've got very happy owner-occupier buyers who are very excited to purchase their first home. We've got very happy family selling the property who are off to upsize into their next property. The last one I might talk about is 9/38 Preston Road in Carina. Now this is a joint listing that I jumped on with one of my colleagues, Bruce. He listed the property, really gorgeous, 10-year-old, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car townhouse in the heart, or in the southern end of Carina, which I tend to sell a lot in. Quite a busy campaign from launch, and we ended up getting the property sold with a contract price of $1,010,000. Which is not, I'll be very honest to say, is not a suburb record, but it's very close to, and it's a very good price for that particular part of Carina. I might leave it at that. We're off kicking this year. We've got quite a few new properties coming up, including Character Homes in Annerley, apartments in Upper Mount Gravatt, apartments in Mount Gravatt as well, apartments in Coorparoo, another beautiful house coming up in Eden's Landing. If you want to talk about any of those properties or talk about what your property might be worth in this new market, please give me a bell. You can catch me on 0407 149 757, or of course you can send me a DM on all the social medias. Thanks.